Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for enduring the rain, the traffic. I think we're definitely going to have some stragglers, so we'll try to keep on track. I won't get distracted by people coming in. But welcome again to Google. My name is Victoria Fabiano. I'm a partner manager here at Google. I work with SmartSites and a few other elite agencies here in the United States. I've been at Google for about 3 years, and the Google 15 is a real thing. There's so much food here, and I hope that you got enough breakfast, you got some coffee. Simmer up is the regular coffee, simmer down is the decaf coffee. H2O is hot water. I have no idea why they changed the nomenclature on the pots, because at like 8 a.m. in the morning, it doesn't make sense to anyone. So I am here with SmartSites to talk about consumer behavior, to talk about the importance of digital. This should be super informal. During the presentation, if you have a question, you can feel free to raise your hand. If people can't hear, we don't really have a huge room, so you can either just raise your hand or there's mics on the sides that you can ask questions. But we also have a whole panel at the end and Q&A, so if you have a burning question that comes up and you don't feel like it's the right time to ask a question, you can wait until the end. So the agenda: welcome you here. Please get up, get coffee, get more food. There is a bathroom out and to the right. So if you're looking at the breakfast, it's to the right. Don't be alarmed. It's a unisex bathroom. So if you walk in and you see someone of the opposite gender washing their hands, don't freak out and don't think that you're in the wrong place, because that has definitely happened to a few people, and then they wander around and get yelled at by security. Another thing is, you all have little Google badges. Please keep them on so you don't get tackled by security. And breakfast, bathroom, this area. You can take pictures in here. Try not to take pictures out there. Again, you may get tackled again. But I'm kidding. Hopefully no one gets tackled. So we have a few great topics to talk about. I will jump into the first one. Like I said, all of those housekeeping things here. I will kick it off, and then we'll hand it over to SmartSites, and then we will have a Q&A panel after a break, and you can recharge, get your coffee, get your water, etc. So how many people have been to the Google office before? Anyone? Oh, cool. Amazing. So I was telling Alex and Matt from SmartSites that a lot of the times we change the atmosphere of our office to try to keep people on their toes. Different people learn different ways and are productive in different environments. So this floor is seasons. So right now we're like in the spring area, and then if you keep walking down the hallway, it turns into summer and fall and winter. It's really interesting, and it allows us to be excited about our environment and really, again, keep ourselves on our toes. So with the spirit of Google of being engaging and being exciting, I really, really hope this content is engaging for all of you today. At the end, we will give you surveys, and you can give us feedback, because we're a feedback culture, and I want to make sure that everything we're talking about today is relevant to you. And if we do another event like this and we invite you back, we want to be able to give you content that's tailored to you and what your interests are. So with that, we're going to start the day with micro moments. And has anyone heard of the narrative that we published about 2 years ago about micro moments? Is anyone familiar with micro moments? Good. I have some people that have already heard about it, and they're like, oh my God, this is so boring. So I'm glad that this is new for you, and it really focuses on the consumer shift and how people are consuming information, acting on information, and how they live in the digital world. So to start off the day, we're going to start with a video, because it's really early, and the copy maybe has not kicked in. So Kathy, let's hit this video. gives me chills every time, that last section about the baby. Anyway, so what this is trying to illustrate is that we're living in these micro moments. So every day, we touch our phones about 150 times. And I'm sure you can all attest, because I'm sure everyone here has a phone, and you're walking to the bathroom and you're like, I gotta take out my phone, I gotta look at stuff while I'm walking. And you may not be the greatest experience running into people while you're walking and you're on your phone, but you see it all the time. And we have this thing called nomophobia, and it's the fear of being without your phone and not being connected. I traveled to Australia earlier this year, and I tried to get Google to give me like an international phone plan for like a week, because I was going for work, and they're like, no, when you land in Australia, you can go to like one of the Verizon store or whatever, Vodafone, get a chip and put the new SIM card in. And I landed, and the first thing I did was like, where's the Vodafone? Where's the Vodafone? I don't have access. I'm not connected. Because we are always searching. We're always looking for the next thing. We're either researching, we're looking for entertainment. There's so many moments that we whip out our phones. I would say we whip out our laptops or desktops, but really that's not happening that much anymore, unless perhaps you're at work. But when you're mobile and you're working and you're walking and you're sitting on the train, or you're a passenger in a car, a lot of the times we are on our phones, we're looking for that information. And whether it's Orange Heels or planning your next vacation, it's really, really important for brands and for companies to be there in the times of need. And like this chart explains, it's becoming more complex. There are definitely times, like in that video, woman saw orange heels, she Googled orange heels, and she probably bought those orange heels. And then there's other paths or other purchases that are a little bit more complex. So when the guy was shoveling the snow and he looked up beach vacation, I'm sure he didn't purchase a beach vacation right there and right then, but there were many moments and many interactions that he had figuring out when he's going to book his trip, where he's going to go, and as this chart or as this image shows, it's on desktop, it's on tablet, it's on your phone, it's across blogs, it's across videos on YouTube, and so on. And to bring this to light, because the holiday season is upon us, Black Friday and Cyber Monday is so close. This is just another illustration of, for instance, like Janet. Janet is trying to find a holiday or a Christmas present for her sister, and she Googles something nice for her sister, and then maybe some inexpensive Christmas gifts for sister. And then she looks at blogs and she looks at other ideas. Maybe she goes onto Amazon and sees what can she get in a few days. Maybe she wants to get her a scarf or some driving gloves. And then she figured out she wants to get her some gloves. I don't know anyone who uses driving gloves anymore, but in this example, she wants to buy some driving gloves. Maybe her sister has a really nice car and she goes for drives. But no matter how esoteric or as generic or as popular gifts are in this instance, with these driving gloves, she figured out exactly what model or what brands and what type she wanted to buy. And then for this, she wound up getting it on Amazon. One click, maybe two click. I don't know how many people have gotten in trouble with Amazon one-click purchase. I've definitely bought things on a whim and I'm like, I shouldn't have done that, but it has all my credit card information. It's easy for me to check out, so I'm just gonna buy it. And even though I need it tomorrow and I could just drive down the street and get it from a store, I'd rather Amazon just drop it to my front door. And now there's Amazon Key, where they can come into your house and drop it inside, and that is a little creepy for me, but a lot of people would love that, especially in New York. I used to live here for 10 years, and I moved away a year ago, and I lived in a walk-up building, so no elevator, no doorman, right in the West Village. And I actually only purchased things from Amazon because they're the ones who would deliver through the USPS, and they could actually go into the building and leave it, versus like FedEx or UPS. I would have to go to the store or like the storefront and pick it up because they wouldn't leave it there because inevitably someone's going to steal it. But I digress. So for this story in particular, it's just showing that there was multiple touch points and there's different paths people take to purchase. And as marketers, as owners, we know this, and even as consumers, think about your own journey when you're trying to find information, to purchase something, and so on. So I want to dive into micro moments, and that video tried to illustrate the moments or the types of things people are looking for and how they search for it. This consumer shift, like I mentioned before, people want information now. When you're searching on your phone and you have 30 seconds waiting for the train to come, because now there's internet in the train stations here in New York, which was not there a year ago in a lot of stations, you're looking for things. You want it quick. You want as a marketer to match the consumer behavior. They're looking for intent, for context and immediacy. And that's like the apex of micro moments. And so we're gonna dive into each of these areas. And this is such an eye chart. Please don't try to read every single thing in here. And we will definitely send out the slides, at least my section after today. But like I mentioned before, these micro moments could be a myriad of things. It's when people want to watch, when people want to know, they want to research, they want to go places, they want to find a brunch place or a dinner place, or they want to get a haircut. They want to do something in the moment. I can't tell you how many times when I was single here in New York, it's best indoor date places because it's like 37 degrees outside and you can't just go for a walk in Central Park. And I didn't want to go to the movies because then you can't talk to the person. So that was definitely in my search history. And then, of course, the I want to buy moments. And that's pretty obvious. But there are these 5 or 6 buckets. There's so many more. But this, again, is a bunch of stats. And a lot of the slides I'll show statistics, because everyone loves numbers, but people don't actually love to learn about numbers. They want the context or the case study or something that illustrates it. So throughout this presentation, I'll go and give you some stats and give you some case studies. And again, if you have questions about any of them, let me know. So succeeding in micro moments. Now we know people are kind of ADD. They're looking for things. They're searching. They're on their phone. They're on their desktop. They're on their tablet. And how do you match that? How do you use that information? How do you capitalize on the fact that consumer behavior is shifting, and you need to be with those consumers every step of the journey? And I don't know why this is. Okay, there we go. It is working. So be there. So being there, thinking about the fact that at the end of the video, it was like, people are searching every moment, are you there? So showing up gets your brand in the game, but it's not chosen. And again, there's a lot of stats on this. But think about when people are searching for, again, best date place or best date idea inside. You're not really trying to sell anything there, but you want to be in the consideration set. So this idea of many consumers are not brand committed. So when people search for things, we found in a research that we did with Ipsos 2 years ago, that when people are searching for things, they may have a brand in mind, but when there is a product or a service that comes up and gives them relevant, snackable information, and it actually fulfills their need, they can switch. About 51% of people switch. So that means that even if they type in Adidas shoes and you're Nike, you could still steal their hearts by giving them something that they're looking for and being more relevant than maybe the brand that they're looking for. And that brings me to step 2, or the middle section of the slide. It's you get a shot at your competitors' customers. One of the things I don't know, we're in New York, so I don't know how many people have used the LIRR mobile app or mobile website. Granted, it's gotten a lot better, but like 3 years ago, I was trying to book a trip on the LIRR, look for things, and that website is the slowest, most terrible, not mobilely optimized site. And it annoyed me so much because there is no other way for me to get to Long Island unless I rent a car and drive, which I didn't want to do. And it annoyed me so much that there was not a competitor, and I wanted so badly for someone to disrupt that market and let me get there, so I didn't have to endure how crappy that experience was. But there was no competitor there, so they couldn't steal me, and they didn't get a shot at me. But someone needs to think about a business opportunity. Anyway. So, and then being there drives awareness. So even if someone's searching, so when people are searching, and even if they don't click on your advertisement, or even if you're ranked organically at the top of the page, people are seeing your name. They're seeing your brand. You're now in their consideration set. So think about that as well. Think about the long tail searches that people are looking for. And we're gonna go through a little exercise later to think about your micro moments and like what are the non-obvious moments where people need you, but you're not there. So Sephora, this is a great example. So in Sephora, it's a makeup store, and what Sephora started seeing was that people were in their stores and they were on their phones. And so they're standing there and they're like looking at a product, they're like maybe trying it on their arm or putting it on their face, and then they stand there and they're looking on their phone. And people are like, the Sephora employees were like, what is going on? And they thought maybe they were showrooming, like, oh, Sephora's selling this for $7. Can I get it on Amazon for $5? But what they actually found out was people were looking for reviews. So they're like, oh, this mascara looks really cool, and it looks really nice, but is there something wrong with it? Or like, is it the best thing out there? Or is the Dior better than the Chanel? And what Sephora started doing is they created an app for their stores where people can put in the product itself and all of the consumer reviews go up. Now, their website also does that as well, but what they wanted was for people to be driven to the Sephora page, not just like random reviews online. So they curated for them, and they created, or they were able to provide an answer to the need that a lot of the people in the store were looking for. So that's just one way that they're being there and they're being relevant and giving context to the consumers in the store. The other one is the Fiat. So like I mentioned, I don't live in New York anymore. I moved to Austin. And so I had to buy a car. And it was the most painful process ever because I have not driven in 10 years. I moved here when I was like 18. And before that, I had my sister's old car. I never had to think about a car. I forgot a lot of rules of the road, and I was looking for a car. And Fiat was actually in my consideration set because honestly, I don't know how to parallel park. It's now been 11 months and I still don't know how to very well, like I can do it if I need to, if no one's around, but that's not actually the time where you parallel park. It's usually when cars are like on you, and anyway, it's very stressful. So I wanted a smaller car. So I was really looking for like the smaller types of cars because then I can fit into smaller spaces, et cetera. So Fiat created this whole campaign about city living and city cars. And they drove a lot of awareness when people were searching for like cars in the city. When they were geolocated in a city and they were searching for cars, they targeted those people more than someone in rural Wyoming who could have a huge pickup truck because they're probably not parallel parking as much. So another example of thinking about why are you different? When would people actually be searching for you? And maybe they don't even think about you. Fiat was not in my consideration set, and still I had but I was, when I was searching a lot of like, how do I parallel park? There was one blog that was really funny that said, get a smaller car. So that helped me on my journey. And then the last one for this section is Red Roof. This is a really, really brilliant idea. So how many people have been stranded because they missed their flight or it was delayed, and then you now have to stay a night in the airport? Anyone missed their flight? They have to stay. So Red Roof saw that there were some airports, actually, there was 90,000 people a night on average in 2015 that had to stay in a hotel because they missed their flight. And some of them were not put up by the airlines, like they had to do, because maybe they missed their own flight and then there was no flights for the rest of the day. So what Red Roof did was they created an algorithm, they put in flight information, and they saw which cities had the biggest cancellations. So like cities probably like Dallas-Fort Worth, Chicago, those big hubs that have tons of flights every day, and statistically a lot of travelers got stuck in those cities. So Red Roof started geolocating and serving ads during certain times, so like late at night, for cities that had high flight cancellations. So when you're in the airport and you're like, hotels nearby, Red Roof would come in right at the top with an ad because they're like, we know you're stuck, and we know that like you need something that's affordable and easy to get to. And they had late night pickups at the airport to get them and bring those travelers in. And they knew that in that time of need, how annoyed are you when you just want to get home and there's no flight and you just want to see your family? Red Roof came in and they not only like gave utility to those people, but they won them over because they're like, you knew exactly what I needed. I needed to get picked up and I needed you in that time of need. So that's another example of a brand that really understood their customers and their micro moment, if you will. And so I won't have you guys write it down or raise your hands, but for a moment, just think about, what are your customers' micro moments? What are those? Do they need to watch something? Do they need to learn something? Do they need to know something? I want to buy. So think about that for just a second and think about really, are you there when they're searching for those moments? And I'll give you another example. I also, in addition to buying a car, which was the largest purchase I ever made in my life, now is my second largest purchase because I just bought a house. And my micro moments, it's slightly schizophrenic, but it makes sense when you, with my story. But when I moved to Austin, I moved into like the swankiest downtown apartment ever because in New York, I never got to live in a nice building because it's so expensive. So I looked for like the nicest one downtown. I didn't even need my car anymore. I could walk everywhere. The Google office was 2 blocks away. It was great. But then I was like, this is kind of expensive. I now live in a place that I have more work-life balance. Maybe I should buy a house. Austin real estate is booming. I should get in before it gets way too high. So I started with my search or my moment of best neighborhoods Austin. And then open houses this weekend. And then when I was at open houses, these realtors kept saying about Code Next, Code Next. I'm like, what is Code Next? Code Next is the densification and the rezoning of Austin. So they're trying to make Austin more like, because we're growing, Austin has gone from 500,000 people to 1.5 million people in like about 10 years, and our roads cannot deal with it. Traffic is really terrible. They are trying to rezone houses so bars and other types of companies can actually be in neighborhoods instead of just being in a certain area. So they're rezoning areas, and they're also trying to densify. So you can actually build a second house on your lot now. So I wound up buying a house on a 1/4 acre, and now I'm starting to talk to an architect to see if we can build like an ADU or like an additional dwelling above the garage so that I could rent it out and make some money that like didn't exist like 5 years ago, because Austin is trying to densify and become a better city and welcome more people and adjust to the influx of people. Anyway, so Code Next. Now I need to learn. I learned all about Code Next by that realtor, and then also going and searching about Code Next, how would that impact where I buy? Would that be negative? Would that be positive? Would that increase the value of my house? And then it was time for a mortgage. So then I started learning about mortgages. Rocket Loan, I saw so many commercials because I was watching the HGTV network, God, Flip or Flop is so good. But first mortgage, I was learning about like what goes into it. Does my credit score get hurt? Then negotiation with realtors. I had a great realtor who negotiated, but I really wanted to get some concessions. I bought a house that was built in 1939, so they kind of laughed at me when I was like, the windows are not like up to par, and they're like, the house was built like 70 years ago, 80 years ago, like it's gonna not be perfect. And then closing costs, am I getting screwed from these certain things because I wasn't educated on it. So a lot of this house buying process, obviously it was really long. It took 3 months to buy the house and learn all of this stuff. But just an example. So depending on what type of business you are, what services you offer, you could get me in a multitude of ways throughout this process. And if I'm starting to look for open houses this weekend, that could be a leading indicator that I'm eventually going to need a mortgage, because I probably can't buy a multi-$100,000 house out of pocket. So if you're a mortgage lender, you should probably be looking at my search history earlier and not just waiting for me to Google first mortgage. So think about those leading indicators of when do they need your product, when do they need your service, and sometimes you may be right and sometimes you may be wrong. Buying houses, some people start the process and then they realize it's not the time, and maybe you serve them a few ads, maybe they started the process with you and then they stop because they don't need a mortgage anymore. So just some ideas there. So key questions back to you, kind of referring back to that slide 2 slides ago, is what are those micro moments? And when you Google things, when you look and search for the types of phrases and those leading indicators, are you there? And if you're there, do you like what you see? How many people Google just their brand? Does anyone just like Google like, Victoria shoes? Okay. that's great. You should obviously show up for your brand. But think about, again, those long tail terms and who's showing up, what are they saying, and how can you be there if you're not present on that search page? Are you only focusing on bottom of the funnel, like I was talking about the mortgage? Are you going to wait until I Google, first mortgage, what do I do? Or are you there earlier in the process? And then what are the different contexts of those needs, and thinking about that as a bigger picture and not just that bottom funnel. Like, be in their consideration set before you're ready to hit buy or book an appointment or, et cetera. So now we're gonna be there, and now you're there. This is awesome. You're showing up, you know what your micro moments are. So what's happening now? Are you actually being useful? Are you just being intrusive? Or are you actually giving that information that the customer needs? Are you going in for the hard sell, or are you giving an answer to their question? So another slide with lots of stats on it that I won't go through all of them, but 73% of customers say that regularly getting useful information from an advertiser is the most important attribute. So they want you to actually answer the question, obviously not go in for the hard sell. And before, like we talked about switching, almost 51% of people have bought from a brand other than the one that they were originally searching for. So think about, again, competitive set, where are you, where are your competitors, and are you playing in that space? And then video. This is something like, I feel like 5 years ago, so my background's in brand management. I was a traditional marketer. Out of undergrad, I went to NYU undergrad. I then worked for Dannon Yogurt and Estee Lauder companies, and I did makeup marketing, food marketing. And the funny thing is, 6-8 years ago, we had a separate team for digital, and then we had like the brand managers, and we kind of like consulted them, but they weren't, like, digital wasn't in our core. And I think back to like how crazy that is, because that was like, we were so behind on the times. Obviously to date now it's a mixed team, but it's funny how the silos were. And then when mobile was happening, people were like, no, the mobile moment's not happening. Like, people are still on desktop. No one's gonna buy, book a hotel on their phones. And guess what? In 2014, the mobile moment happened. And every brand that wasn't spending on mobile and they didn't know how to tailor their message to mobile missed out. And now this idea of video. Like, I still hear from some of my clients and their customers, like, well, we don't have creative, we can't, like, no one watches videos on us, no one's gonna be on YouTube, no one's looking for us there. Well, it's happening. People are looking more and more on YouTube to figure out how to do things, how to get reviews, unboxing videos. I think I have a slide later that, like, people watch other people open up things all the time. Like, year over year, they're skyrocketing. I don't do it, but there are many, many people that definitely do that. So, the stat on this page is, tap into your audiences, their passions, create content that not just answers and not just a hard sell, but what are they looking about? What are they learning about? So with mortgages, I needed to know what are the important factors? What should I be thinking about? Is it gonna hurt my credit to get a loan? Like, all of these questions, instead of going in for the hard sell and being like, we have better rates than the next guy. So think about that in that context, and what is your content, what are your messages on your website and your ads, and so on. So with Adidas, Adidas, obviously shoe company, and obviously they apparel, things like that, they could easily just be there when people are looking for sneakers or athletic wear, etc. But instead, they actually used YouTube to create a series of videos called The Dugout, and this was during the World Cup, that just had different athletes and different topics that Adidas produced this content and shared it on their YouTube channel. Yes, they also did advertisements on YouTube, but they didn't. That's not the only way that they were playing. It hurts my soul when I have brands that I work with that they're like, oh, I have a YouTube channel, and I go to it, and it's just they're like TV ads on their YouTube channel. And I'm like, that's not what people want. They want content. Adidas is an athletic brand. Capitalize on the passions of the people that buy your brand. It's athletics, it's a healthy lifestyle. And I'm not saying everyone needs to create like a series on YouTube, but it's just one example of it. And so these moments of like, I want to know, think about this snackable content. How can you educate people? So like Realtor.com created something similar where, just like me, when I'm in the research process, I need to learn about certain things about homeownership. Believe me, I thought I researched a lot, and then I moved into my house, and there are so many things that I didn't realize that it's now like under my jurisdiction. So like my sprinkler broke, and the water was flying into my neighbor's yard because part of it was like broken on the side, and all the water pressure was like making it like a rocket into my neighbor's lawn. And I have to water my grass or it's gonna die. Yeah, also that is so annoying that you have to mow your lawn. Anyway, so I had to fix that. And I had no idea what to do, and I called a sprinkler guy, and he, like, the rate was really, really high, so I asked my boyfriend, and then last weekend, we were digging up sprinklers, and it was so annoying, but he, like, looked online and was like, okay, so you have to go. We went to Home Depot, we bought a sprinkler head, and I was very confused because I thought it was too short, but the sprinkler heads actually pop up, and that's why they're a certain height. We learned a lot from Home Depot, and I actually think I have a slide about Home Depot creating videos. So Realtor.com did exactly that thing where people need to know information, so they created 2-minute videos. So unlike my long-form, really long-winded stories I'm telling you, they did it the right way, and they made short, snackable videos for people who are buying homes and they're interested. Instead of just saying, like, go to this open house, go do this, like, get an agent through us, they went a step back and went upper funnel instead of that lower funnel directly to them. So the I want to go moments, people use their smartphones to find a store or locate it. This is not a surprise. So one of the other things about these micro moments is, are you using location in the best ability that you can? So like with Argos, this is a retailer, they used local inventory ads. So there are shopping ads that show up when you're on Google. There's also local inventory ads where you can find something you're looking for, type in your geo, or they'll target you in your actual geo and say, we have this in store. And then you can click on it and you can buy it online and pick it up in store. It takes a step out where it's like, yes, there's a retailer in your area that can give you exactly what you want. And if you don't want to wait for it to ship to you, go pick it up. And so that is a way that they took a step out, and they're like, here, we know exactly where you are, because every phone has GPS, and if you keep it on, we're able to track you in a non-creepy way. And they saw a much higher return on those types of advertisements. So like I talked about the LIRR before, another characteristic of consumers is the websites and how long or how good they are and how navigable they are. So one of the ranking factors in where you are organically on Google, on mobile, is how relevant and how navigable your website is. So when people are looking for it and they bounce right away because they can't find the location button and all they want to do is put in their zip code so they can find you, that hurts your rankings. So this is what I was talking about before, the Home Depot. Home Depot did this is another case study of videos. And like with the sprinklers, we looked up what we had to do, and I think we actually watched a Home Depot video, and then we're like, oh, we need another sprinkler. I wonder where we're gonna buy it. We're on the Home Depot site. They just gave us all of this awesome information about how to change out these sprinklers. And then we went to Home Depot and bought it. And we even got we had a Lowe's coupon that we got in the mail, because like when you change your address, you get a bunch of coupons, but we still went to Home Depot. We were really impressed by it, and it was like step-by-step, and it was very, very cool. Same thing with Unilever. They created a lot of videos. It's really easy in like the makeup and hair care space to do that as well, where it's like, this is how you curl your hair. Oh, by the way, this is a really great hair curler, and you can buy it on our website. So I feel like we're getting the gist of it. I can definitely skip over some of these case studies, but I feel like it helps bring to light these statistics instead of just like going slide by slide. So again, empowering people to purchase really quickly. So like I talked about, being navigable, having a good website, can people find the information that they're looking for? Just like I mentioned about Amazon before, do you make it super, super easy if you are an e-commerce website? Or even, I have booked salon appointments, like I've picked salons based on if they have online appointments, because I don't want to have to call the salon and go like, yes, I can do this date. No, I can't do this date. And it makes it super, super easy. So it's not just about e-com, it is about any other service that you can book. Again, like across the gamut. So obviously people like that. You're on your phones. And like if we keep thinking about this idea of 150 times a day you're on your phone and you need things really, really quickly, it needs to be relevant, it needs to be immediate. Think about all the ways that you can help fulfill those needs. And some of them are really obvious, and I think that easier checkout is super, super obvious. Even this esurance, granted, I think online you can actually go in and put in the quote, and get a quote really easily without talking to someone. But they also, on their ads, had a click to call button. So instead of like going to their website, finding their number, clicking on it, they just put the click to call button. So all you can do in the ad is click. If you click it, it opens up the phone number, and then you can call them directly. So that was really easy way to cut down and not have people get lost on your site or lose customers. So that was a really easy way to do it as well. So your key questions is, what do customers want to learn about your products or services? Are you helping people? Are you thinking about geolocation? Are you thinking about where they are and how their context changes depending on where they are, what time of day it is, et cetera? If you have a product or service that could lend itself to like how-to videos or anything that you just helps people instead of just selling to people, have you created that content? And then where are consumers buying your products? Are they buying online? Do they need to buy it in store? Are you set up for that? Okay, this next one is what I'm not being quick, but you need to be quick. So I love this to the title of the slide. If speed thrills, friction kills. This is so, so true. How many people have been on a site or been on their phones, they click on something and it takes like more than 3 seconds to load? Do you stay or do you bounce? How many people like will shut down a website? Yeah. 40% of people literally bounce if it takes more than 3 seconds to load. Like think about, I don't know how many people had rotary phones. Like I grew up with a like literally rotary phone. It would take like a minute to do people's phone numbers, especially if they were the 0 at the end. Like in the last 15 years, we go from being able to have dial-up internet. I also had AOL. Like we had a computer in the late 80s and like that Macintosh that I always got the floppy disk stuck in it and I had to get tweezers to get it out. But like we have changed so dramatically with our behavior, and it keeps rapidly changing. The next frontier is artificial intelligence. Like mobile is kind of like, it's not even mobile first anymore, it's artificial intelligence first. So think about that for a second. So if you're not even capitalizing on a fast website and you're not thinking about how the consumer experience changes, they can't even get to your website. They're not going to learn anything about you. You could have the best content ever, but if people are not finding it and they can't get to it quickly, you might as well not even have it. So 40% of people bounce, 30% of people will switch, and 1 in 5 will never come back to you again. So take it seriously. So now what we're going to do is everyone's going to take out their phones and they're going to search for their own brand or maybe your favorite brand. Just for a second, take it out and just see how fast the site loads and count, see if it's more than 3 seconds. Play some music for us. Stop texting, guys. It's only been like 30 minutes. Okay. So how many people less than 3 seconds? So how many people took more than 4 seconds? More than 5 seconds? More than 6 seconds? Okay, so action item. One of the action items is maybe eliminate some steps. Maybe rethink that really long video that maybe is really large on the front page. Think about different ways that you can cater to your customers. What information are they actually looking for? And like, do you have the basics on your site, or do you have all this other stuff that no one's going to use when they're on their mobile device? So now you can put your phones back. I'm gonna wait until everyone puts their phones away. I'm almost done, I promise. Oh, I shouldn't have done this. I'm never gonna get you back. So one of the things is eliminating steps, especially for checkout. I don't know how many times I'm about to check out on a mobile app. Like, I've literally done this where it doesn't auto-populate for me, or when I type in my zip code, the numeric pad doesn't pop up automatically. I get irate, and I will change. And that's why I use Amazon a lot, because they crack the code on really quick checkout, one-click checkout. So I'm not going to go through all of these because I have already spoke for too long. So just the next section, or the next point, is anticipate those needs. So again, especially when you're catering or you're creating ads, when someone looks for best mortgage, don't send them to your contact page, right? They want to learn about it. They want to get a rate, or think about where you can direct them and what's going to be the most relevant for them, and make sure that your site is really easy to use on mobile. So Virgin America, what they did is a few years ago, completely revamped their site. The only thing on here, at least the version when we did this case study, was to book a trip. That was the only thing that you could do on their mobile site. You could scroll all the way to the bottom and say, like, see complete site. But for the mobile experience, most of the times people wanted to either book a flight or check the status of a flight. And so book a flight was main thing. They were running their analytics to see where are people going. Those were the top two. But overwhelmingly, people wanted to book flights. So they changed everything and just did that. They focused on their bread and butter. So how can you rethink your site as well, or rethink your strategy? Zillow, oh my gosh, I was on Zillow probably every single day, 50 times a day when I was looking for houses. One of the things I loved about Zillow was you log in, they know where you are through your GPS, and they automatically fill in the zip code that you're in. Now that doesn't always work, because you may be looking for somewhere, like you may be looking for a zip code 10 miles away from you when you're trying to buy a house, but it didn't have it defaulted to New York City, because like obviously, like if I'm in Texas, most of the time you're looking for it where you are, especially if you're looking for like open houses this weekend. So same thing with extra storage. What do you need? You need to know if there's a storage unit near you. Pared down their website to make sure that was the easiest thing to find, and it was super easy. Numeric little keypad popped up when you clicked on the zip code locator. They made it as easy as possible, so there was no friction. It's getting rid of the friction. And then the last portion is load like lightning. We just talked about this. More than 3 seconds, people are going to drop off and go somewhere else. So how fast is your website? So Walmart, one of the things they did, they have tons of images, they have tons of items on their site. They really looked at how people are interacting with it. They pared down the site again. They improved their image quality images by shrinking them, and really thought about what's the most important thing. If people can't get to the site, they're not gonna buy anything. So rethink the design, even though they thought like, I'm gonna have 17 pictures of every single product on the site. On mobile, they changed it and pared it down. So key questions for you, and almost done. I feel like 5 minutes and I promise I'm done. What is the key action on your site? What do people wanna know? Are you optimizing for it? What do you already know about your customer that can get them one step further in? And then you all know, you should write it down. How long does it take your site to load? And are you less than 3 seconds? So connecting all the dots. We started this presentation with the consumer behavior journey is so fragmented. Where are people? Just like if your site doesn't load, and even if you have the most amazing content, no one will find you. If you are testing different things and you're not actually recording or having any sort of attribution, if you're not measuring what you're doing, all of this is for nothing. You need to know what works and what doesn't work, because you can try creating snackable content, but if no one's watching it, maybe you need to pivot, maybe you need to learn do different content for those snackable videos. If you are over-optimizing on mobile and you're doing geo-targeting, but you realize actually people are not searching for things in their actual geo, they are planning something else and they need to learn about something in a different zip code. You optimized for one thing that you thought was true, but you had to test your hypothesis. So are you measuring it? Are you measuring across all of the screens? Are you making sure that you're not just doing last click attribution? Are you giving credit to the other moments, the other searches, the other devices that people are on? And I will skip this one, but but the 1-800-bulbs is a great one where they put a website call conversion, so they did a tracking number to see how, like, what types of people are searching for ads, like clicking on the ads and calling, versus other people. And they found out that when people are searching organically, certain phrases indicated that they just wanted to call them to see like the store hours or the like if they had something in stock, versus other keywords were actually showing that they were going to buy something on their website right away. And so they figured out, okay, maybe we're not going to bid on the certain keywords that are driving the certain behavior because they can still find our website or our number really easily, but these other people who have an intent to purchase, they have a million other bulb companies that they can buy from. I want to make sure that I'm at the top because these keywords indicate intent. So think about that as well. Again, in AdWords, you can, with Google advertising, you can completely see the keyword search terms report and see how people are interacting with your site depending on the queries that they're searching for. So measure across your channels. Analytics, this is a plug for analytics. If you don't have it on your website, please do. It's free. And then a few other case studies, driving people to store. I know there's a lot of questions about online to offline and how does that happen? How can we measure it? There are so many cool things coming out of Google in the next few years about beacons, about figuring out who's actually in store or who searched at home and then came to the store. And we're working really, really hard to ensure that we can connect those dots for you because we know that's a huge pain point. And then the last thing, I was actually telling Alex this before, when I worked at a company that I won't say the name, our store, it was a retailer, our store had its own team and our website had another team. And we had different inventory on each of these websites, or sorry, each of these areas. So we didn't talk to each other. So if there was a huge seller on the website and it was sold out and it would be driving people to store to buy it, and then we wouldn't have stocked up in store because we didn't talk to each other. So don't be in silos. Think about your company, your brand, how you're working together, and how you can inform each other on all of these things we just talked about, being relevant, being quick, being there. So are you measuring? Are you accounting for all types of mobile-driven conversions? And is your organization broken down into silos, or are you talking and you're keeping things open? And so Macy's, Target, these are both companies that have really capitalized on that and made sure that they are being omni-channel and not being in silos. So micro-moment checklist. Go through all of these now that you're very well versed and you could rattle all of this off. And then if you're really, really excited and you want to learn more, we have this website. There's a ton of different narratives on there and extra information if you're interested. But the big takeaway from this long session is consumer behavior is changing. We look at our phones 150 times a day. We want immediate, relevant content. And are you doing that? Or are you just going in for the hard sell for your products or services? So with that, thank you so, so much. I am now going to introduce Alex Melen, co-CEO of SmartSites.
Thank you. I get that too. Hey guys, ready to get going? Yeah. Love the enthusiasm. Cool. So we have actually a really good session for you guys today. We have an hour, maybe a little bit less. Then we're gonna do another break again. We're gonna do some Q&A after, which will be great. I know a lot of people have a lot of questions. of you guys have been coming up to me today and asking me questions. So at the end, it'll be great because we'll have a lot of people on stage here. We'll have Victoria on stage with us. So we'll do a Q&A. And after that, we're actually doing drinks. They're going to be right outside the door. You get a lovely view of the city from there as well. So definitely stick around with us until about noon is when we'll wrap up and start the drinks. Cool. So let's take it away. So we're going to talk a little bit about SmartSites. And do a great timeline. So this is a new slide. I presented about SmartSites and all that a couple of times before. This is completely new, so I'm very excited for this. So this is that's actually me. Lovely picture that actually my brother recently dug up. So we're going to talk about the history of SmartSites, how everything came about. But literally, I've never knew that picture existed. Literally, for a presentation Mike did in India a couple of weeks ago. He dug up that picture, so I'm definitely using it going forward. So we're going to talk about the history of SmartSites. So it literally goes back all the way to 1991. That's back on my first computer over there. For those that remember back that far, it was the i386 with a good old couple kilobytes of memory. This is before the small floppy drives. This is when you had the big ones. So a lot of people ask me, how many years have you been doing this? And this was back when I was doing sales and picking up the phones. I would say, 20, 25 years. And you always get like a long pause after that. Really? So it actually goes back all the way back then. So the ideas of SmartSites and the stuff we do started off all the way then. And literally, as I got my first computer, this was before the internet, I was always very curious about how to use the computer, the internet to communicate, to spread ideas. And back then, it was all not as obvious as it is now. This was literally before AOL, before any kind of internet. The first internet service came around a little bit after that CompuServe, for people who remember. To dial up with your 14.4 modem, you had the so this was all the way back. So after that, the first company I actually started was T35 Hosting. It was actually one of the first web hosting companies out there. For those that were around back then or remember back then, this actually predates GeoCities by a little bit. Actually predates a little small company called Google that some of you guys might have heard of by a couple, probably by a year as well. At the same time, my brother Michael started a company in college called Backlink Build, which was one of the first SEO companies. And again, for people who were around back then or remember back then, SEO for a long time was a very dirty word. It was companies didn't want to admit that they're doing SEO. It was almost like you're trying to cheat Google or trying to do something bad. So he started Backlink Build, and it was very successful at the time, because a lot of companies, Fortune 500 companies, wouldn't want to do it themselves, because if all of a sudden shit hit the fan, they wanted to be able to say, oh, we didn't do that. These guys did it for us. We hired these guys, and they did it for us. So that's around 2009 when Mike started Backlink Build, and he actually wound up working with a lot of really big companies at that time who just... It wasn't a time where it made sense for people to do SEO or any of this internet stuff internally, because they didn't want to be held responsible for it. Whether it's by Google or the shareholders, they didn't want to be investing and doing stuff in the internet. And then at the quarterly meeting, it turns out that the internet isn't really working out. They didn't want to be on the chopping block for it. So actually did very, very well. Mike wound up graduating Cornell a year early to start SmartSites with me in 2011. So in 2011, we kind of combined everything I was doing at the time with everything that Mike was doing and formed SmartSites to really help small businesses get an internet presence to market themselves. It was really a big void that was missing at the time. And I'll go to the next slide really quick, and it's a little bit more of a visual one. Since then, we've created over 600 websites. We manage over $11 million in marketing spend last year. We're a Google Premier Partner. We're actually in Inc. fastest growing companies. We're in the handful of Inc. fastest growing agencies in the U.S. But this just shows the void that was there that we've been trying to fill since 2011, and we're still here trying to fill today, where the bigger companies. And I spent some time working at Publicis, managing digital for Samsung and then for Walmart, and the void I saw there is really very real. That you have these big companies like Publicis and some of the Starcoms and all of those big agencies that service the bigger clients. But if you're a company with maybe 10, 20, 50 people, or even you're a 1-2 person company, you really don't have anywhere to turn to help with your digital stuff. On the smaller end, people wind up going to their niece, to their nephew, to their friend. When you go a little bit bigger, you try to hire someone in-house to do it, but even the in-house route, you wind up with one person that you want him or her to do website design, marketing, pay-per-click, want him to know Google best practices. So it becomes a little bit difficult, and that's the void we've been trying to fill and filling since 2011. We're going to talk a little bit more about us. I'm going to bring up my colleague Ryan for the next part.
Hello, hello. Hello. I guess I'll just project to all you guys know as everyone knows today. So really quick, we want to talk a little bit more about our team here. One thing we tell all of our clients is you really don't want a guy anymore, right? You don't want one person who's handling all of your web presence, someone who's trying to pretend they can do graphic design, build out your pay-per-click campaigns, help you with SEO. We know that's impossible. There's not enough hours in a day, and there's quite a few unique skill sets that are required for each of these sets. So what we have here is a snapshot of our team, and one thing that's important to know, as many of our current clients know, as many of you know, is that a lot of people are going to be working on your project. You're going to have a project manager if you're going forward with pay-per-click. You're going to have pay-per-click analysts working on your campaign. Any graphic design work is going to be done by our design team. So you can rest assured that any piece of your project is going to be handled by an industry professional, not someone who's trying to use bubble gum and paper clips and kind of put your site together and your graphic pieces together. So this is something really important, worth noting, is that you want to work with a company that has a large skill set, has people who work on the proper individual parts of your project, and communicate and come together well to have nice synergy to make sure your project works smoothly and you get the results you're looking for. I want to go back one.
I'm not sure how to go back.
It's the red one.
Perfect. So the only the only reason we're here today is because of clients like you. A lot of people in the audience have either worked with us for Google AdWords, they worked with us for SEO, website design. So first of all, I just want to thank you. One of the most interesting things about our job is the fact that we get to work with pretty much every industry you can think of. And since we have a lot of clients who do different things, if you have time during the break, talk to some of the people, and maybe there's something that you're looking for, like antiques or gold or event planning, that someone in this room can actually help you with. And when you are doing research and deciding what kind of companies that you want to work with, make sure you just kind of do a little research, see who they are, see what kind of clients they worked with in the past. There are some companies that just work in one vertical. There are some companies who say they can do it all, and there are companies that have kind of no presence at all. So just make sure you do your due diligence before you decide who you're working with. So next, we're going to talk about the importance of digital. So Victoria obviously did an awesome job saying why digital is important. We just want to touch upon it a little bit more. And we're going to start by showing you a quote from a great man, Henry Ford. So he once said that those who stop marketing are like those who stop marketing to save money are like those who stop a clock to save time. So that quote, while it was said a long time ago, is still true today. I'm sure if Henry Ford was alive, he would be making his websites load under 2 seconds. He would be following all these micro moments. He'd be investing in search engine optimization, in Google AdWords, and just making sure that his company and the multiple of his employees were working to the best of their ability. One thing I like to just play around with is this website called Internet Live Stats. So if you ever have a chance and you're in front of a computer and you're bored, go to the website, and what it actually is, it's a live ticker of pretty much whatever is going on the internet. It shows you the amount of internet users in the world, the billions of people who are trying to access information, the billions of emails that are sent every day, and it's a live feed, so it's really cool. And the one thing I want to talk about here is the amount of Google searches that have happened just today. So I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but Google's mission statement is to make information universally accessible and easy to find. So it's Google's job to make information easy to find. It's our job as advertisers to make sure we're putting your information in front of the right people at the right times.
Hey guys, I'm back. it was actually really fun to sit over there and watch it. I realized that I felt like I was talking very, very fast. I think all of us, unfortunately, have been talking very fast. So I know going forward with this, I'm going to try to talk slower, not quicker. I know that's one of the things I do. I talk quick, but if you guys have questions, I think there will be questions coming up as we go through this. Definitely jot them down. You guys have notepads in front of you. We're going to do a open floor kind of Q&A right after the break, so definitely jot down your questions. We're going to do our best to answer all of them. We're going to have a lot of people with a lot of knowledge up here, so any questions you have about the stuff that we do, about Google, about digital, please jot them down. Again, I know this goes a little quick, and I apologize in advance if it's quick and some things don't seem as clear, so please jot them down. We're going to have a good amount of time to answer questions right after this is over and after the break. Cool. I guess that's already up, so you know what's coming. So a kind of personal story that I want to share with you. So we're going to talk about importance of digital again. Victoria did a great job covering this, and we're just going to touch upon it a little bit more. Obviously, you guys that are here today realize how important digital is, and that's why you're here. Obviously, it's not, I know some people came from further than others, but either way, it's not easy to wake up at 6 a.m., 6:30, get yourself over here, whether you're driving or subway. So I really appreciate you guys being here, and you guys are in the minority that actually realize how important digital is. And even though we're in 2017, heading in 2018, there's still a lot of companies that don't really realize it as well. So we're going to jump into this example because it's the most relevant one, the most recent and relevant one. So we're going to talk about Toys R Us a little bit. So Toys R Us is a company that I want to say almost everyone here grew up with. When you were a child, if you wanted to get a toy, you really wanted to go to Toys R Us. I remember being a child myself, my parents would take me to Toys R Us, and I didn't even realize it was a store. I would go there, I would play with the toys. It was like a fun and exciting time, right? Like, as a child, you don't know you have to purchase things. You don't know, like, it's like a playground. You go there, you play with stuff. It's what I would say is an iconic brand that spanned the whole nation. Whether you grew up in California or you grew up in New York City, you're very familiar with Toys R Us. On top of that, Toys R Us was actually one of the first companies to register a website online. So if you go back to, if you flash back to a picture I showed you guys of myself over there in the early 1990s, they were right there. They were actually in the first, I want to say 100, 200 websites out there. They made a website. Someone realized that this stuff is kind of important. Let's get out there and let's make a website. So what happened after? So we flash forward to 2002. Also a very, very long time ago. So we're thinking about 15, 16 years ago. Toys R Us has their website. It's up. It's not really doing much, but they make a strategic decision that the internet isn't really something that we see panning out. They decide that let's partner up with a company that's doing digital, and they actually partner up with Amazon, and they send all their traffic to Amazon. Looking back on it, obviously, it seems a little silly, but at the time in 2002, it was really hard to tell whether the whole internet thing will pan out. At that time, they decided that digital isn't something that's really important to us, that we think it'll help some people learn about our brand, and maybe they'll show up in our brick and mortar stores, but if we don't really want to deal with all of that stuff, let's give it to someone who does, who knows that stuff and who wants to deal with it. So they actually made a partnership with Amazon. All their website, all their stuff went to Amazon. It actually helped grow Amazon to a big brand because at the time, right before this deal, Amazon was mostly known for books. They weren't really a place where you get anything else. If you think back all the way to 2002, literally Amazon was the bookstore. It's very hard to think back now when Amazon literally sells everything, and it's one of the most valuable companies in the world. But back then, Amazon was like Barnes & Nobles. They were literally a bookstore. And Amazon just decided to shift all their toys purchases to Amazon. So how did that pan out for them? A couple of years later, 2009, this is still a long time ago, by the way. So we're thinking about, 8 years. Amazon decides, Toys R Us decides, I think we messed up. I think this digital thing might actually be bigger than we thought. Let's try to figure something out. So they had a whole legal dispute with Amazon. They said, we want to sell our own stuff now. We want to cancel the contract we had with you guys. They wound up settling a really huge legal dispute with them. But at the end of the day, even after settling the legal dispute, they really didn't, whether they didn't realize or they didn't realize the full implications, but they still didn't understand the importance of digital. They once they broke away from the Amazon deal, they decided that we're going to have an online presence. It's going to be our thing now. We don't need Amazon. We're going to have our own website. We're going to do our own thing. But they actually made it work around a single store. So like Victoria mentioned earlier with another example that she couldn't disclose, this one I have a little bit more leverage with disclosing stuff, not being associated with Google. This is literally an actual example of what happened. So they made their Toys R Us website associated with a single store. So if you wanted to buy a toy or you wanted to buy anything, it had to be shipped from that store. If that store didn't have it in inventory, you couldn't get it. You couldn't order and pick up in a different store because it literally came from a single silo. It's very similar to Victoria's example of where she worked previously, where they literally did the same thing, and it obviously that's the opposite of embracing digital. So what wound up happening? Literally, this article, does it have a date on it? It's 2017. This is earlier this year. So now all of a sudden, and if you guys Google this, the press about this is just hilarious, because in the original time in 2002, the press was praising Toys R Us for understanding that they're not the digital experts. They got to push everything elsewhere. Then 2009, they're like, well, maybe Toys R Us messed up a little bit. And now all these articles come up how Toys R Us neglected the web. So Google in the news article is very interesting, but literally now everything comes up about how they neglected the web and didn't take digital seriously. And the reason I want to go through this example is because it's really close to heart to a lot of people, having grown up with Toys R Us. It's a company that realized that digital is there. It's not that they didn't realize the internet was there, right? They had one of the first websites out there. They realized it was out there, but they didn't understand the change of consumer behaviors. Again, this goes back to what Victoria was talking about, the importance of moments and the whole trend to digital. When you want to buy something or research something, you're not going to a library anymore, right? If all of a sudden you come home and your sink is overflowing, right? You have a plumbing issue. You're not going to go to a library, try to research it. You're not going to open your yellow pages and try to find a plumber, right? The first thing you do is you take out your cell phone, you try to find a plumber, or even a YouTube video learning about it if you want to fix it yourself. So again, the reason I bring up this example is because digital is very, very important. It's an important trend that even though we're now going to 2018, not everyone realizes, right? Toys R Us realized they're probably a year or two too late. And they declared bankruptcy protection, I want to say a month, 2 months ago, right before the holiday season. And everyone knows the holiday season is when all these retailers make their money, right? If they made it a couple more months, they could probably pull through another year. But it was just so bad and a little bit too late. They started doing digital. They started concentrating a little bit more online, but just a little bit too late, not following the consumer trends. So again, I know everyone here realizes these trends a lot better than Toys R Us did, and just again want to point out what happens, that even if you're in the midst of things and you're seeing these trends, you really need to understand them and follow where your consumer is to be able to keep up. Cool. So that was a lot talking all in a row. So we're gonna jump to some more talking. So we're gonna talk about I'm gonna go through some of the numbers and stats actually reinforce this. So it's not just me saying, oh, Toys R Us did this or Toys R Us did that. Obviously, it's easy to be here on stage 15 years, 20 years after everything happened and say, oh, they messed up. But let's talk about the actual trends and make sure that everyone here, obviously you guys are all over these trends. You know digital is important, but actually let's look at the numbers and make sure that we fully understand where not only the current trends are, but where we're going. So we're going to talk about where people spend most of their time. So for this part, let me go through the data, and then we'll do a quick exercise to make sure everyone's still with me and awake here. So this data shows us how many hours a day an average person spends consuming different medium. So this is TV. What's interesting about TV is that data is a little bit loaded. So I don't think we have the table up here, but the chart on the left is 2012. The column on the left is 2012. Middle is 2016. And the one on the right is forecasted for 2018. So this is how much time an average person spends watching TV. And again, this is very loaded data because, as you guys know yourself, a lot of time people are watching TV, they're actually on their mobile device. So even though this counts as TV, I would wager that 50% of this time people are still on their mobile device while watching TV. Commercial comes on, I could guarantee you if you have your mobile device next to you, you're going to pull it out and start looking something up. So let's look at digital. So digital is literally the reverse of TV, but even higher. And I'll pull up the other medias so we have everything out here. Radio is staying about flat. It's going down a little bit, but it's mostly about your commute. Print is going down a little bit. Other accounts, billboards, out of home. So the patterns we see here is that literally TV is going down. Digital is going up, and even when you're watching TV, you're watching digital. So for your businesses, when you guys think about my business, not only in general, oh, people are doing more digital. For my business, where are my consumers? So marketing is all about reaching your consumers in the place that they are. So if your consumers aren't watching TV anymore, it doesn't make as much sense to keep running commercials in front of them, right? And as I promised, we'll do a quick exercise. So it's a little earlier today than some of the times I've done the session, but we'll still do a similar exercise. So I want to see you guys raise your hands if you spent more than 2 hours on your mobile phone today since waking up. So it's about 10:45. Raise of hands. Not as much as usual. Like usually in the afternoon you get a little more. Raise of hands for people who spend more than 2 hours watching TV today. More than 1 hour watching TV today. Going once, going twice. So for obviously you guys could look around and see, but no one has spent an hour watching TV today, while a lot of people spent time on their phone. Even if it wasn't 2 hours, it was enough. So again, as we talk about digital, we talk about reaching your audience. So it's obviously digital is important. All the magazines, newspapers, articles claim that it's a year of the mobile since 2011. So it's important to, of course, follow those trends, but the data speaks for itself that if you're trying to reach your consumers, less and less of them are on digital. Less and less of them are on TV. That was a trick one. Cool. So one more slide to reinforce all of this. So this one's a little tricky to look at, so take a couple seconds and just try to absorb all of it. So on the left side is where media consumption is happening. So for that data set, is the question is, where are you consuming media? And almost half of the media consumption happens on digital. On the right side is ad spend. And what's interesting is, even though people are consuming almost half of their media on digital, the ad spend hasn't caught up yet. So this is important because this is one of the short times in history where there's an arbitrage opportunity between where the eyeballs are and how much it costs to get those eyeballs. If you think about going back, we're gonna go way back. We're gonna go back. Let's go back to something that people aren't biased about, and go back all the way to radio. So when radio came about, right after, invented around World War I, a little bit bigger after World War II, radio was never meant as a platform for advertising. Radio came about as a way to have one person distribute information to a lot of people who are their captive audience, right? If you think about some of the videos or pictures you might have seen, people would literally sit around their big radio thing. It was this huge box, right? After dinner, everyone would sit around to it and listen to it, and they would listen to one person talk that would distribute their information to a huge captive audience. And this is before cell phones, right? No one was distracted. People were literally sitting there listening to the radio. Probably around that same time, someone decided, wait, these guys are a captive audience. This is a perfect opportunity for me to give my message out there. And it was similar chart to this, where the media consumption, a lot of it started happening on radio at the time, but the ad spend wasn't there, so it was a huge arbitrage opportunity. So I assure you, the first couple of companies that were advertising on radio had huge ROI because no one else was spending on there. It was still cheap to spend on there, but you were getting a huge captive audience. So I know we're in 2017 now. This is not 2009, not 2010, but I think, and this data is from 2016 actually, it's only from last year. I think we're still in a huge arbitrage opportunity where all the eyeballs are in digital. Literally, even if you're watching TV, you're still taking out your cell phone. If you have a need for anything, you still take out your cell phone, you still search on your cell phone. So all these companies are spending huge money on TV. And TV, I worked in the big agency world, TV stuff. The spend is predetermined a year in advance, and you have these pre-buys. It's kind of the slow-moving vehicle, and you still can't guarantee the eyeballs. But in terms of ad spend, people are still spending tons of money on TV, way more than digital. So again, I just want to point this out and to let you guys know that we're still, even though some people might feel like, oh, I'm too late to this digital game, we're still in an arbitrage opportunity where it's still very cost-effective to advertise digitally, and you get a lot more eyeballs than you do on TV. That's a lot more costly and really much harder to measure. All right, so that was our last slide for importance of digital. We're going to kind of wrap this up with 3 really cool case studies. I'm going to do the first one, and then I'm going to hand it over to the rest of the team to go through the other ones. Then we're going to do our break. So we're almost there. And these case studies, we specifically picked out really interesting ones to kind of showcase not necessarily the stuff we can do because it's, I think we do an amazing job, but I think in a lot of cases, not everything, but a lot of the stuff we do, and we're very transparent. We show everything we do. So a lot of times you guys could be doing some of this, or at least taking some of these ideas and then coming to us and making sure that this is moving along and being implemented. So we pick three very diverse case studies to talk about kind of businesses that right off the bat is very, I'll put them up here. Right off the bat are businesses that are difficult, not really something that is very easy to do digitally, but something that could be done and we did with great success. Start this off, I'm going to talk about Boardroom Socks, and then Matt is going to come up and talk about Momentum Solar, and then Ryan's going to wrap it up with A Absolute. So we're going to take this away, and I'm still going to try my best to talk a little bit slower. Cool. Boardroom Socks. So Boardroom Socks is a very interesting company. They're actually from North Carolina. They came to us with a very limited digital exposure. So they had a site on Shopify, but they were really struggling with their online advertising, which really, I guess, makes sense, but to them was very puzzling because they have a very rich family tradition. They make all the materials themselves in the U.S. They are the 7th generation in their business, based out of North Carolina, as you could see in their logo, and that's all they do. They've done it for a very long time. They've been very successful doing it for a long time, but online was obviously a really huge challenge because, as you could see here, this is some of their products. They sell socks. They sell great socks, amazing socks, these premium socks, right? But if you think about selling socks on the internet, it's very challenging. For those of you guys that watch Shark Tank, imagine this is your business, right? You go on Shark Tank. and you say, I sell socks. I'm going to be huge. I'm not huge yet. But I'm going to start selling socks on the internet, and everyone's going to buy my socks. I'm going to sell my $20 socks, and it's going to be huge. Obviously, it's a really, really huge challenge. Let's go to the next slide. Cool. And why is it a challenge? If you guys Google socks, as you could imagine, everyone out there is bidding for this stuff, right? You have Amazon on here. You have Target. You have Bloomingdale's, right? You have Walmart. You have companies with huge budgets. They're actually going to take a loss on the sale of socks because they're going to get you overall to buy a bigger basket or to come back and buy something else from them. You have all these companies that have specific shipping minimum. They know that you're going to go to their site. For example, Target with their $15 socks for tons of socks, right? Not one pair, tons of socks. You're going to go to their site. You're going to buy $15 socks. And to get the free shipping, you're going to buy tons more stuff. Then once you have a Target account, they're going to email you about their promotions, their sales. You're going to come back. You're going to buy a laundry detergent. You're going to buy absolutely everything else from them. So they're going to take a loss on this bid, right? And not only that, literally every ad, these are all ads, by the way. These are all sponsor results. Every company's paying to be out there. I'm sure that most of, if not all of these companies out there are taking a loss on this click because they're going to get you for more stuff. Obviously, if you go to Bloomingdale's to buy one pair of socks, you're not going to wind up checking out with one pair of socks. So that was obviously a huge challenge, right? You have these premium socks. You want people to buy them, but obviously you can't compete against these guys. You can't take a loss. You're not big enough to take a loss and hope in the future someone comes back and buys socks from you, especially when all you sell is socks. You don't have any higher profit item to sell to them. So let's talk about some of the stuff we did for them. So what we did is we actually targeted very special material and a special style of socks that they actually sold. And the trick is we actually we did literally all the different Google channels to sell it. So we did the search ads. So what you see at the top in the red square is the Google search ad. So we're the #1 premium merino wool sock. At the same time, we did shopping ads on the right side. Not only that, but we bundled them in multiple sock orders. So you don't see the one sock come up there trying to compete with Nordstrom. You actually have the bundle, and we did it for all the different materials. Again, it's one of those very challenging industries where if you were to go to Shark Tank or investors and you were to say, I have this great business. My family's been making socks, and these socks are going to be huge on the internet. You could see the obvious challenges in that. But with this strategy of targeting very specific competitive advantages they had, and actually being everywhere. So on there, they're above Amazon. The reason they're above Amazon is because on Amazon, they're targeting something more general. Even though Amazon's ad copy is amazing, they do very well with PPC. But when you click to boardroom socks, you're actually going to get the over-the-calf dress sock. Where on Amazon, you're going to see lots of items that might not be as relevant. Might not be wool. They might not be over the calf. They might not. You literally just get a dump of random socks, which people searching for premium work socks or whatever it is might not relate to as well. So that's the reason we could bid to actually be above Amazon. And on the right side, of course, you have the shopping ads, and we made sure that we showed up for multiple products. So we showed up. Can't really see in this example, but there's multiple colors. If you search the blue wool socks, the ad would show the actual blue sock, where everyone else, like Nordstrom, would be showing a general one. So how did the results look? So they actually came on board with us in September of last year, and this is their sales from literally from Shopify. I took the sales dollars off for their own privacy. But literally ever since they came on board with us, sales not doubled, not tripled, but quadrupled. And in the winter months when it's a little bit more in demand, we actually did, I don't know, I think 4, 5, 6 times more than they did the year before in that same month. And I remember there was a specific month, I think it was November or December, where their sales in that month were more than their sales ever combined. since they opened their store in 2014. So I wanna wrap this up with kind of saying that even if your product seems like would be challenging to do online, there's definitely creative ways to do it. It just has to be thought out with a concrete strategy. I think anything is possible. Literally, if you have a solid product that you have consumers who are interested about, I think you could sell online. It's literally, I know people who are more salesy say I could sell anything, and I could sell anything in person, but literally online is become a place where so many people search nowadays that you could literally, if it's being searched for, you could sell it. And then of course, comes down to ROI, how much I could spend. But no matter what product you're selling, I think there's an opportunity for it in digital. Cool. So I'm gonna turn this over to Matt, who's gonna talk about Momentum Solar, which is slightly different play, but will give you a different perspective.
Thank you. Thanks, Alex. All right. So yeah, we're going to go in a very different direction. We talked about socks, which are everyone needs. Solar is something that everyone knows about, but not everyone necessarily needs or wants. First, I'll tell you a little bit about our client, Momentum Solar. So they started as a one-person shop in a barn in New Jersey. Yes, there are barns in New Jersey. It's beautiful. And their goal was to expand at this as far as possible. So by the time they came to us in about 2 short years, they went from servicing one town, one city in New Jersey to actually offering solar to the entire state. Their goal was to bring solar, again, as far as possible. When they reached us, they were actually just moving into New York and Pennsylvania and Connecticut, and they wanted a marketing strategy to support their growth. So the challenges that they faced, which we all do when we're thinking about advertising and Google AdWords specifically, are the costs involved. Because Google AdWords, it can be a costly initiative, but it's something that if it's planned correctly and utilized correctly, it can be great. So while Boardroom Socks probably deals with something like 50 or 60 cents per click, these guys were dealing with anywhere between $10 to $20 per click because they were bidding on solar panels, solar panel installation, and again, it can be costly. The other issue they had is even when they were getting their ad in front of people for this cost, people weren't clicking through. Only about 1% of those people who saw the ad would click their site. Those that did, they didn't convert. It took them about $200 to get just one person to call them or fill out a contact form. So those were the challenges that they faced, and that's when they came to us. So the first thing that we did for them was something that we do for all of our clients in the beginning. It's simple. It's just follow Google's best practices. A good rule of thumb is if you're following Google's rules, you're probably going to have a good time, and that's something I would recommend to everyone. So once that's done, get that out the door. We optimize their quality score. We fix up their ads, make sure, again, we're following best practices. We went a step further. We created a specific landing page to give people a little bit more clear direction of what to do when they got there. Because sometimes we create ads, or you create ads, you land them to your home page, to your contact page, to your service page, and while there's good information, it's just not the easiest flow to understand. Am I supposed to call you? Am I supposed to read? So we create a landing page, which we'll show you shortly. Next, we actually did some testing. So we didn't just build one page, we built 3 pages and tested the data against each other. Another way to just get more people through the door, get more eyeballs, is through remarketing. If you guys are not working with us currently and you're not doing remarketing, turn it on right away, because getting someone to your website initially, like I said, can be, for these guys, $10 to $20. To get them back, it only actually costs them $1 to $2. So you're actually saving a ton of money there. And people don't always make purchases right away, as Victoria explained. It's a very long process. So if you can kind of follow them around their journey into what is solar, why is it important? All right, now eventually, maybe a month later, I'm ready to see that purchase. You see that ad in front of you, you're like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. And you go and finish that process. Another thing we did for them was actually a little bit more targeted display advertising. Not something that works for every single industry, but for them, with some very careful planning, we looked into some blogs that only talked about solar, that were very green, very energetic. Some others that were just New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut specific, that talked about home ownership, and we put their ads on those websites. All right, so next, I'm going to show you some of these ads that we created for them. Oh, sorry, these landing pages, actually. So this is the first one. If you take a look at their website later, you'll see it's a beautiful website by all means, but it's just a lot to go through because they want to make sure, as a customer, you're really informed into what you're buying, what you're investing, because it is a large investment that you're committing to for a long time. So what we did for them is create this page that had a very specific call to action, a clear contact form, easy way to call them. This brought their conversions up drastically. We'll show you the numbers soon. we actually created another page. And what we found from the first one is while it was a little clearer and a little more specific, it was maybe a little too barren. So we put just a little bit more information about why go solar. We actually asked for a little bit more information to qualify that lead a little more because the sales reps felt they didn't have enough information when they were buying. So again, this performed better than the last. And finally, we ended with this one, which by a huge margin performs better than all the others. So what we have seen from home services specifically is when you can feel a connection to a person or a landing page, like here you see a happy family. There not only is it our site, not only are we showing people, we're showing happy people, we're showing a connected family, and we want to give them the impression that, hey, if you go solar, you can be as happy as these people one day. Is that true? Maybe. We're not sure. Hopefully solar brings joy to everyone, but it does make an effect when it comes to conversions. So let's show you how the numbers supported that theory. So the first thing was getting that cost down. So we got there over the course of 6 months, their cost per click from $14.08 to actually $3.58 through the use of all those things I showed you before. We got more people to click on their ads by making them a little more appealing, by adding more calls to action, and we got their cost per conversion down drastically just by, again, making it easier to find out not only who they are, but how do I get in touch with them, how do I call them, and all of these things made a great impact. One other thing I want to stress before I pass it over to Ryan is that while Google AdWords is pretty instantaneous, you start a campaign tomorrow, you'll get clicks tomorrow. It's not something that you can just start one day and then forget about. That's why companies hire an agency like ours to make sure that we're looking at the data every day, every week, every month to see what's performing, what's not. Because if this company just hired us to set up their campaign while their numbers would have gone down drastically, they would have never seen these kind of results over a 6-month period. And I'm just going to end with where are they today? So this was a few years ago, which they onboarded us. And they went from, again, servicing New Jersey, slowly New York, Connecticut, and actually made their way all the way out to California, and they're continuing to grow. So if you guys ever need solar, definitely reach out to them. All right, Ryan, please pass it over to him. He's going to talk about a company, Absolute.
Thank you, Matt. That was right there. So really quickly, this is a really extensive campaign that we put together. It's one that myself and Matt worked on extensively. So if you have any questions about some of the hyper-targeting or some of the crazy stuff we did with this campaign, drag us aside upon completion during the networking and ask us any questions you might have. Really quickly, Absolute, if you guys are from Jersey, you might have heard of them before. They're one of the state's largest plumbing providers, and they also provide HVAC services, a couple supplementary services to go along with their plumbing. They came to us with a really robust campaign. It was very well built out. It came from another marketing agency, so it wasn't a situation where we just took a look at the ad copy, took a look at the landing page, and said, hey, we can knock this out of the park. This is very entry level. So for them, they said, we're spending a ton of money every month, Ryan. We need to know why this money isn't converting into the proper sales and the proper revenue that we're looking for. What can we do to circumvent some of these challenges? And we're going to hop into some of these challenges right now. Now, one of the problems they had was they had wasted spend. And I said, hey, how do you guys know that you have wasted spend? And they said, Ryan, we're getting these calls we used to never get. And I was like, well, what are some of these calls? They said, people are calling us and asking if we sell in-wall air conditioner units, and they're asking if we have any sales going on. We don't do any air conditioning retail sales. All we do is work on central air conditioning units and work on commercial projects. We don't know where these leads are coming from or why we're getting all these calls, but we know we're paying for these clicks, and we know that our operators are taking time out of their day to field these calls. We're wasting money on both ends here. Now I said, well, do you have any access to your campaign to take a look and see what some of these clicks might be, what these people are actually converting on? He said, well, we kind of have access to the campaign. And I was like, what do you mean you kind of have access to the campaign? He said, we actually have a dashboard that an agency created for us, and we can't actually see our ad copy. We can't actually see what keywords are being provided. All we can see is that if someone clicked on the word air conditioner, it's a broad bid. That's what air conditioner is. Now, broad bidding means that any combination of the word air conditioner plus other words is going to appear. So people were saying, Whirlpool air conditioner wall unit for sale. And they were getting calls at that because they didn't see what people were clicking on and what the relative results were for those words. So without having visibility of your campaign and actually being in the actual AdWord account, you don't ever really know what someone's doing. You don't really know where your money's going. That's why our best practice, and something that Google suggests as well, is that you guys can actually have eyes on your campaign, see what's going on. Matt alluded to it earlier. If you have any opportunity for collaboration, if you sense a trend, or if you say, hey, I got a bunch of really bad calls today, let's see what maybe some of those keywords were, we can help tailor your campaign accordingly. Now, another challenge is that Absolute covers the whole entire state of New Jersey, but they didn't want to be known as the New Jersey plumber guys. They wanted to be known as the guys in your town. Because with a service where you actually enter someone's home, you have to have a certain air of comfortability so you can convert these people. So we had to figure out how can we target the whole entire state, more specifically hyper-target every single town and every single subsection in every town in the whole entire state to make the hyper-targeting as accurate as possible and provide people with the information they're looking for. Something else we also had to consider with them was, although plumbing is their primary service, they do get a lot of revenue from their supplementary services. We had heard from them that they had experienced some problems with the kind of quality leads they were getting from these supplementary services, so part of our new campaign goal as well was to make sure we bring quality leads across all their services. So what did we do? Right now, you're probably looking at these 4 shots right here. This is their landing page, so most of you guys know what that is. When someone clicks on an ad on Google, this is what they come through to. They probably all look the same to you, right? Nothing too crazy different. They are so different, and they will convert so much better, and I'll show you why. First thing you can notice is that with geo-targeting, we can actually tell where someone searched from. So if you're searching from Patterson, if your IP is located with Hamilton, if you're in Wyckoff, we know where you're searching from. So you're automatically going to see your town in the name. Wow, that's a great comfortability. They're in my town. They're local. How great is this? They're not even a town over. But it gets better. We also made sure that for every different county they're in, they have a relevant area code that matches that county. So if someone's calling from Bergen County, it's 201. If it's Passaic, 973. If it's Ocean County, 732, or Monmouth, excuse me. And what ends up happening there is when you see a local number, you see your actual town, and you see the exact service you typed in. So as you can see, the person on the first screen typed in clogged drain needs, someone else needed HVAC, someone else needed central air conditioner. So we make sure that these ads represent exactly what people typed in. They get matched with a phone number that's exactly in their area, and we actually have the town that they're looking for the service in. By doing that, there's really no reason why they shouldn't convert because we're giving them every level of comfortability to drop their defenses, get on the phone, and have someone come out to their house. Now, another problem they had was they had no actual visibility to their campaign. So they couldn't see if their previous provider was really building out every town, where the clicks were going, where the wasted spend was. So one thing we did with them and we do with all of our clients is we ran them through the AdWords campaign. We explained how some of the basic things work, some of the things to look for, so that they can actually go in their campaign. If they have a wonderful day and say, hey, Matt, Ryan, call quality today was incredible. What were you guys clicking on today? What were the words? We have to know. That's the kind of relationship that really helps us out because with collaboration, we can say, hey, here are the keywords for today. We definitely want to reinvest appropriately. Now, here's some of the fun stuff. It's the numbers. Now, when they first started with the previous company, they had good results. They were definitely ranking, but they didn't have any access to data. They got really upset that the other company wouldn't give them access to data once we explained that, it's pretty commonplace for you to be able to see your account. What we ended up finding out was that they were spending on that air conditioner repair we talked about earlier, $15,000 a month. People were spending on air conditioner for share, air conditioner wall unit. So it made it pretty easy for us to drive some of these numbers down. So the cost per click actually didn't drop by that much because the previous campaign had a good build out, had great keywords it was targeting. It just didn't have, the kind of accuracy and the kind of hyper-targeting that we did with this campaign, so we were able to do a little bit better there. But the staggering numbers here are the cost per lead and the cost per appointment. But I mean, based on what I've told you, that should be pretty self-explanatory. If most of their clicks and a lot of the calls they were getting are for services they don't offer, how can that ever convert? If someone comes on a landing page but they don't see any air conditioners they can buy, why would they stay? So what we did was we were able to drive that down considerably, and their cost per appointment is the thing that we're most proud of. It used to send them $210 to send someone out to a house. Their average sale was around $350, $400. The margins weren't working for them. It wasn't something that was scalable. They said we need to get the number down to somewhere around $150. We'd be happy with that. We blew that out of the park and brought it down to $121, and we contribute most of that success to the hyper-targeting and as well as making sure that the whole entire campaign's built out properly. Now, as a result of this, you might say, well, what kind of impact does this have on business? Well, it had such a positive impact on their business, they built out their own landing page for a hiring campaign, and they used Google AdWords as a hiring campaign to bring on new technicians. So this is an example of a company that was, had a great foundation, had a goal of wanting to scale, and was willing to do so. And now they're actually running a campaign right now where they're acquiring new technicians through a PPC campaign, and this is their landing page for that. So this is a great example of how AdWords can really, even if you're working with the current agency or if you've worked with someone in the past, having someone else who's a premier agency like ourselves taking a look at the account, collaborating, suggesting some of these different efforts, especially in regards to hyper-targeting, can definitely yield some incredible results as you've seen here. And I believe right now we're going to take a quick break because everyone's been talking a lot. I know I was just trying to get through this, but if you guys have any questions for any of us, come and grab us at any point in time. And that should be it. Tori has anything to say here. Beautiful. All right, guys, take a quick 5-minute break.
You say we've gotta stay home, we've gotta stay cold.
Already know the person who went to your website, so you know it's relevant. For display, then it becomes trickier because you could be on that side. Okay. For what?
Person spent 2 minutes on my site, then I want him.
You could create audiences based on anything. So you could make it
on that kind of there's
yeah.
that information.
Yeah, you could create based on anything. Yeah.
All right. So now we stand between you and beer and wine and swag. So you get some Google stuff if you stay till the end. And we have a survey for you about feedback that I mentioned at the very beginning. So if you fill out the survey, you get swag and you get alcohol if you would like alcohol, which is
Good deal.
which is a good deal. So this portion, there's been a lot of questions. So this portion, we definitely have some questions prepped, but we would also love to hear from you as well. So you've met all of us already, but these three gentlemen, well, Alex,
2.5.
2.5 gentlemen
I'm here.
from SmartSites, and they can definitely answer questions about anything they presented. If you have any questions specifically about micro moments or the consumer shift, we can definitely chat about that as well. So we're gonna start with a question. I'll start with a question.
Thank you.
To you guys at SmartSites. What is the most exciting digital trend that you've been seeing recently?
Me? I'll take the stage. I think the biggest trend, and we've covered. It's on.
You're on, yeah.
We covered a lot of it today with Victoria's session and some of the stuff we spoke about after is, I think, mobile. And again, I've been hearing that this is the year of mobile ever since I started working at Publicis before I started SmartSites, probably like 9 years ago. Every year was a year of mobile. But I think every year it becomes more important. I think this is now the second year where mobile is bigger than tablet, computers, laptops, everything together. So I think that's going to continue to be the trend until we move into wearables and VR and AR and all of that fun stuff. But I think the trend continues to be a mobile. Almost every line of business you're in, when the consumer has an immediate need, they now use their mobile device. I mentioned this example briefly before, but if you come home and your sink is overflowing and you need a plumber, back in the day, right, what would you do? You could cut off the water supply and go to the library, right? Like take out a book about, if you're going to fix it yourself, right? Some people are like, I'm going to do it myself. How would you do it? Before you would go to the library, right? Pick out a book about plumbing, come back home, reevaluate the situation. You had the other type of person that I don't deal with any of this stuff. I'm gonna hire a professional. They would go to their basement or they would go to their closet, pull out the yellow pages, right, like the big book, start flipping through it. It's completely changed now. It's changed to a point where probably 10 years ago you had that problem. You would go upstairs, you would turn on your computer, you would dial up to the internet, you would hear that do-do-do-do-do-do. You would like log into AOL, right? And you would like look about plumbing. These days you don't do that. You literally come home, you see the problem, you take out your cell phone right away and look it up on your cell phone. So I think it's applicable to almost every single category these days. We still have some clients that are in categories that are still struggling behind a little bit. But I think the trend continues to be towards mobile, the importance of mobile. And as I said earlier, I think it's very important for people, when you think about marketing, to think about not where I want my website to be or where I want to advertise my website. It's all about where your consumer is. So it's some people are just stuck that I want to be newspapers or whatever it is, but where are the consumer eyeballs? So you really have to try to get in the role of your consumer. Where are they looking at things, and that's when you want to reach them.
Before, when you're talking about going to the library, I laughed because I think I'm young enough, and I'm sure a lot of people in the audience are as well, that I never went to the library.
They're still out there.
They're definitely, I know they're, but to think
They're
about
open,
that.
open for business.
And so I texted my dad, and I was like, when 20 years ago, if you had an issue with your house, where'd you go? And he's like, sometimes I'd go to the library. And then what scares me is that I feel like my future children will be like, Mom, you went to the computer to look stuff up? And I know that's coming. I know it is.
But people do. You'd load up the computer. You have to wait for it to boot up, right? You have the 2-3 minutes. You go take a walk. I don't know, go to the bathroom, get some tea, come back to it. Still loading up, right? You have to dial up to the internet. You don't always get through the first time.
No one could use the home phone if you're using AOL. So we have talked a lot about advertising. We've talked a lot about AdWords. Obviously, we're here at Google. Let's shift a little bit and let's talk about how AdWords pairs with SEO.
Yeah, I can take that. So we talked about it a little bit before. AdWords is very instantaneous. You start a campaign today, you start getting traffic today. Search engine optimization is basically supporting that because it takes a little while to get there. When someone gets to your website, whether it's through AdWords or some other sort of advertising, if they don't have enough content to sort through, or if the content is not really tailored enough for them, they're probably not going to be interested. So even if you paid $10, $15 for that click, if you're not giving them enough content, sometimes they might leave you. So what we do is basically support both advertising platforms together. So eventually you start SEO and AdWords at the same time. And in order to get here through SEO, you have to kind of be a little bit patient, invest in your website, invest in your content, and hope and just know that you're kind of doing this for the better.
I'm going to chime in a little bit for the people, I guess, that are a little bit newer to SEO and everything. It's kind of a very loaded word. And it's usually a lot of agencies are like, we'll do some SEO magic for you, sprinkle some SEO dust. The SEO Matt's talking about is literally just optimizing your website to Google's best practices and look better in Google's eyes, whether that means creating content, fixing meta tags, things like that. There's no magic. I know a lot of companies still push the magic. It's literally making sure that your website follows Google's best practices, that you have the unique content, you have sites linking to you that should be linking to you but may not know of you that we reach out to. So it's all much more straightforward than it seems for people who have not done SEO before.
Okay, I'm going to take a break. Who has questions? Any questions? Yes.
Compared to standard SEO versus AdWords campaign, I know that for the standard SEO for your organic to get to a certain point, like you said, it takes a period of time. At the end of, let's say a year, do you recommend eliminating the ad campaign once your organic is to a certain level, or do you always maintain both?
Well, one thing I'd always say is you miss 100% of the sales you don't go after. So if you have no presence in the AdWords space, people click on that the majority of the time. It's the first relevant results that come up. You're going to lose all of that potential business. What also happens is with organic results, if you don't continue to work on the organic campaign as well, you're going to end up losing that progress you made. So really it's a situation like Matt alluded to earlier with Henry Ford, that once you start the marketing, you really don't want to stop it. You really just want to be able to make sure that your processes are in line and you can scale accordingly with the marketing.
And they're also different customer bases. While AdWords does have a good chunk of the people who are doing the searches, it's still only around 40 to 45%. Victoria, definitely correct me if I'm wrong. While the rest of the results below that maintain the rest of that percentage. So if you're saying, all right, I'm happy with gaining this 55 or 60% of the consumers, and you're happy with that, you could eliminate it, but that would be a silly thing to do, as Ryan mentioned, because if it works, you should continue doing it and continue growing it.
So you're saying there's a group of people that actually will skip the ads and go strictly to organic, as well as to a group of people that only look at the ads?
Or they got into the ads and they didn't get the content that they were hoping for, so they just kept going down.
Right, but also to what you're saying, let me allude a little further, is that some customers know exactly what AdWords is, and for them, they want to see who's actually done a little bit more of the brunt of the work to really build out the site, like Matt's alluding to, have that all expanding presence. So it's really important that, like Matt said earlier, you really work on your SEO and PPC, because you might find different types of clients. Some just want the immediate results, or only ever going to click on the pay-per-click. Other ones really like to do their due diligence, don't like the first couple of ads that come up. So you want to make sure that not only you're appearing in both spaces, but that the campaigns are built out accordingly.
And I feel like you like set me up for this. So 3 years ago, we did a study on this because we had a lot of advertisers say, if I'm number one on organic, why am I doing AdWords as well? It's just going to cannibalize my clicks. Like I'm going to be paying for clicks that I was going to get for free. And so what we did is we did a pretty large study where we paused half the set of participants and we got rid of all of their ads. So we paused them for a certain amount of time, and then we kept the ads going, and obviously the organic stayed the same. And what we did is we compared how much traffic the people who paused their ads lost. Like people thought they were going to lose nothing. They're already number one in organic. We're not going to lose any traffic. On average, 86% of the clicks that you get in your AdWords are incremental to your organic. So there is a percentage, about 20%, 15%, that is cannibalization. So you would have gotten those clicks, but it's 86% incrementality, which is pretty awesome. And to your point, I love that you said, like, all right, if you don't rank on the page and you're on page 2, and I always like to say the dad joke, where do you hide a dead body? The second page of the search engine results page, because no one goes to the second page. But that is a lot of people obviously use the tactic of, I'm going to pay a lot of money to be number one ad because my organic's so crappy, and then as I move up the page, I'll reduce my spend. And you can definitely do that tactic, but we've proven with obviously that study that there is incrementality. There's a little bit of cannibalization, but overall it's positive.
I think we also live in an interesting time where Victoria mentioned in one of her slides that you have this opportunity to kind of steal your customer's business. So even if, like for example, Home Depot used before, if you search for Home Depot, the first ad that comes up is Home Depot, even though they're the first organic result. Reason for that is because other companies like Lowe's and other liquidator companies, they're going after that business. So if you search for SmartSites, our competitors come up, and vice versa, because we want to make sure that we are top of mind and that you guys are top of mind for your customers as well.
I'll give my 2 cents as well. For those who are waiting for it. Just trying to put myself in, I guess, your guys' shoes. As a business owner, SmartSites is a business that I own with my brother. As a business owner, we do our own SEO for us. Obviously, all of the marketing we do is makes a lot more sense since we do it for a living. We do a lot of SEO, but we also do a lot of pay-per-click, and we do tons of pay-per-click. We spend a couple $1,000s a day on pay-per-click, and the question is why you guys, especially as an SEO, you come up so well for SEO. For me, and maybe more me than other people, I'm really a numbers guy, right? With pay-per-click, it's really a numbers play. Right now, with pay-per-click, I know that every dollar I spend, I'm going to get $6 back in sales, right? I know that's the formula. I also know for a fact that a year from now, I'm not going to get those $6 back because more competitors are going to come in, cost per clicks are going to go up, right? So it's all like in the moment. Right now, I know I invest $1, I get $6 back. There's no reason for me not to do it, right? Even if I assume that SEO is going to pick up some of the slack, it's a very big assumption to make and risk the fact that right now, for a fact, I know today I put $1,000 in, I'm going to get $6,000 of sales today. Regardless of any other medium, SEO, print, billboards, just in itself, that equation works for me. So that's why I keep doing it. Pay-per-click is just very quantifiable, very scalable once you kind of get the ROI. So if anything, even with people who do both pay-per-click and SEO with us, I see them raise the pay-per-click budgets more than lower them, because once they get the ROI, once they come down and say, I know I'm going to put $1 in, get $6 in sales, and my margins are good enough that works very well for me, they only want to grow that. And they grow it up to a point where it doesn't make as much sense. But it's very, very often I see the opposite, that as the companies grow, and Absolute's a good example, they've been increasing because they're willing to scale. They hire more people, right? They know I put $1 in, I get $10 of sales. why shouldn't I keep scaling it, right? And I know next year it's going to be tougher. The year after it's going to be tougher. So right now, let's scale this really quick while we could do it. So focus on right now. I could tell you for a fact that this holiday season, cost per clicks will be more than last. I could tell you for a fact right now. And Victoria can't say this, so I'll say I'll go on record as saying this. Next year, it's going to be higher than this year. So with online, it's the arbitrage chart that we went through earlier. More and more the TV dollars are going to flow into digital. It's going to keep pushing everything up. So even though it seems really expensive now, for pay-per-click management, we pay $90 per click. Literally one click, $90. So a lot of people complain to me, it's going up. I'm paying $8 a click. We're paying $90 per one click. And then we have like some high school student call us up, and then their mom calls and says, "Don't call them ever again." Get clicks like that we pay for. I will tell you that right now is the good times, and next year it's going to be 10% more expensive.
Did you have a question? I felt like I could see it on your face.
Caters to what you were talking about in his question, because that's something I struggle with all the time. It's like I show up number one on my brand, but I'm still paying for it because my competitors are bidding specifically on my name, and then I'm doing it back to them. So
I know.
We're
I know.
our own names, and obviously Google's winning in the end, which is great for you.
Well,
I just don't know like where it ends, right? Because I battle with that. I'm like, why the hell am I paying for my own search brand name when I'm already on top? But if I don't do it, I see all my competitors.
Time for a little collusion. Call them up. Be like, ceasefire. We're not bidding on each other's names.
Well, I actually got a letter from a different competitor saying, please stop. Like from their attorney, saying like, because there have been lawsuits in regards to bidding on specific competitor names.
so I'm not sure which lawsuits you're
I don't know if
alluding
it's
to.
legal. I kind of just told him.
Yeah, so you can, like, rules of engagement. You can bid on other people's terms. So Home Depot bids on Lowe's. Lowe's, that's an example. Cameras, that's an example. I don't know if that's actually happening, but illustrative, like that can happen. What they can't do is Lowe's can't say, shop at Lowe's, we're better than Home Depot, right? So you can't use the trademarked name. But you can bid, and of course, Google best practice we like to say is do not bid on your competitors' terms, because sometimes it leads to cognitive dissonance where someone's like, hey, I just searched for Adidas, why is Nike coming up? That's a certain subset, but then overall, again, if someone's searching for Adidas and you're not there and Nike and another brand show up and you're the third one, like maybe you're the first organic, but 3 other ads or 4 other ads are there, people sometimes don't even read and they click and then they're like, oh, those look cool. I know I wanted Adidas, but I'm gonna buy Nike now. And I know it's frustrating, but there is right now. There's no parameters around not bidding against each other's competitive competitors. And I don't know if there's a certain strategy that you implement to fight that.
Separate, without directly answering, I'll add my 2 cents. Again, we have a lot of cents piling up here today. I think that if a competitor, and I've seen this as well, so competitors have used the other guy's name in that copy, and they use their messaging, and then there's trademark forms you fill out. So someone's doing that, absolutely, you could go against them. That's where the legal stuff comes in. Even if they use like a catchphrase or "we're better than," or there actually was a legal case where someone said in their ad copy, "we're better than the other guys above us," without mentioning those guys, and that was like that's where it gets the shitty territory. But I'll say that as shitty as it seems, I understand shitty. We do the same. People bid on SmartSites, and it infuriates me, especially companies that don't do similar stuff as us. I will say that's not a new problem to Google. We had a client in California who's a doctor, who their competing doctor, apparently from my limited exposure with doctors, there's certain fields where there's only a couple specialized doctors, especially when you're a high-end doctor, there's very couple people in your field that could do what you do. His competitor took out a billboard above our client's office that says, "I'm better than this guy, come to me."
Oh
So it's not a problem new to Google, and legally they could do that as well. So unfortunately, become a bigger issue in the digital space because it's so much easier to do, right? When you do a billboard above someone's office, you feel a little bit more guilty than like telling your agency to like, yeah, let's bid on these guys. So it's a shitty problem, but I think what to look for is if anyone uses anything that's associated with your brand, even like language, then you could fill out trademark form and Google will help out, and then you could make it a legal case. Otherwise, it's just unfortunately part of cutthroat marketing.
So, quick thing that may not be well known is if you have a trademark with, like the government issued it to you, et cetera, obviously, like you're protected, but Google doesn't always know what is trademarked. So there's a separate process where you let Google know, hey, I own this trademark, and you send in the paperwork and all that stuff, and that's when we start monitoring it. Because I definitely get some customers that are frustrated. They're like, this is my name. They're using it. How can they do this? And it's like, well, if we don't know that you're trademarked, then there's no way for us to disapprove them or flag it in the system. So that's also something you can think about if you haven't already, like if you are advertising on AdWords yourself and you haven't thought about that, you can definitely submit it. And we can hopefully help get rid of the direct competition. But again, bidding on the keywords, we can't really fight that off. One thing I do want to level set or kind of shed some light on that is obvious, but as an advertiser, it's not. Google was first and foremost built for the end user. We're here to organize the world's information, and while it's so infuriating that someone's bidding on SmartSites or someone's bidding on your company name, what the end goal is it's not like we're money hungry and we want you to get into a bidding war and all of that. The end result is we want the user to have the best experience as possible. So if they're searching for something, we want them to get what's the most relevant, what's the most clicked on. So like organically, it's like, are you actually sharing information that's useful? Are people staying on your page? Are they not bouncing? Do you have relevant and navigable information? And with ads, that's also where we do regulate your quality score. So it's not just, I am sure most of you know how the auction works, but when someone searches something into Google and 4 ads appear, the person at the top, the advertiser at the top is not the one that spends the most money. It's a function of a variety of other things, including quality score. And so if that ad keeps like popping up and no one's clicking on it, the idea is it does drop down, and you should outrank them at the end of the day. So if they're searching for you and your competitor is beating you, but people keep clicking on yours and your quality score is healthy and you have relevant information, that should help you in the long run. So but the thing is sometimes consumers do not look at the name on the ad and they click it anyway and then they get the advantage. But really, if you look at it through the lens of the user, the end user who's searching on Google, we're trying to make the best experience for them, though I know some things we do infuriates a lot of you as advertisers. And I would like to say I apologize on behalf of Google, but I don't think I have the power to do that. Question.
So based on one of the things you said, if you continuously search for yourself to check your own ads and see where you are, you're saying that could damage your campaign?
That can, because the whole idea is when ads are being served, we as Google control for, is it relevant? So if your ads keep showing up and no one's clicking on them, and so it continually gets shown, there's an impression, but there's no click, you could eventually get ranked down because of it. So if you really, really want to see your ad, if you want to see what it looks like, and if you have access to your customer ID, like your account information, you can go in and there's a tool that shows you what your ad looks like. And it's like a diagnostic tool that you can look at. And so if you want to take a screenshot and look at it every time you want to, instead of searching for yourself, that would be more beneficial than searching for yourself over and over again.
Just that really quick, so that tool that Victoria mentioned is under Tools, Ad Preview and Diagnostic, and it's actually a really cool tool because you could you put in the location, so you could see if things are loading in the location that you think they are and how they're loading in that location, because some people have geo-specific competitors. And you could pick desktop or mobile. A lot of people ask me, like, how is my ad coming up on mobile, or it's not coming up on mobile. Literally, you go in there, you press mobile, and you see it coming up. So it's a great tool. Everyone who works with us has access to their account, but if someone needs help accessing that tool, we're definitely open to help.
Yes.
it would redirect me to Wix, which I thought was like super interesting. I would leave out the U, and this happened to me several times this week. I guess I'm a horrible speller, but with that said, do people bid on the misspellings of their words? Like we're about to do maybe like a jewelry thing, so if we're like if we target all the people that spell jewelry incorrectly, like is that helpful or is that wrong?
So that redirect is not Google. That's literally they bought the misspelled domains, or there was a period where, depending on your internet service provider, Verizon was doing some things that allow companies to bid on misspellings for DNS resolutions. With Google does a good job with bidding on misspellings. It used to be optional.
Right.
And now automatically bids on misspellings, so it'll do that for you in most cases.
Yeah,
so very good comment.
Yeah, exactly. With like the different types of match, keyword matches, you can do like, you could put a keyword in like misspelled jewelry, because I think some people forget or put an extra E or whatever. But now exactly, like if you put one of your keywords is jewelry, if someone misspells it, it will like still pick up on there. I'm sure that was a tactic for people a few years ago when that wasn't the case.
Yes, it used to be not detect, and then it was optional. I remember it was like in advanced settings, and now it does it automatically. So you could bid on it separately. It'll just help you break it out better at the keyword level. But Google does all the, not even misspellings, like plurals and stuff. It makes sure that you're getting all those.
And one of the other things, just to keep plugging stuff in AdWords, a lot of us, as when we have our advertiser hat on, we're like, people are going to search for this type of stuff. This is the language they're going to use, and like these are the keywords that I'm going to bid on. And then as your AdWords campaign runs, you can see the search terms report, and then you can see what actually people are searching for. So like you can see the phrases or the words that people like put into the Google search bar, and then that trigger your ad. So maybe someone, I don't know, calls it a pendant instead of a necklace, and you're not bidding on pendant because you're like, no one uses that anymore. And then you can really be able to capitalize on the consumer language. And that's another thing where you can beat out your competitors who maybe are spending a lot more money if you use maybe regional language or dialects, or the fact that like I moved to Texas and everyone says y'all and I just don't understand it, and that's fine. I always say you guys, and then they're like, oh, you must be from New York, or you guys. But anyway, so like thinking about that too is another way to kind of like keep costs down. Speaking of costs, how do you guys think about budgets like for your clients? How do you evaluate how much someone should be spending on AdWords?
So in the beginning, it's a difficult conversation with anyone talking about dollars and cents, because people are usually very guarded when you start talking about money. So with AdWords specifically, since it's, as you guys all mentioned before, it's very easy to scale, I tell them start with what you're comfortable with, whether it's your current budget or just a budget you pulled, out of a hat, and let's start with that. So it's our goal with whatever number you choose to get you some sort of direct ROI, whether it's you spend $1, you get $1.25 back, or spend $1, you get $2, $3, whatever it is. And we want to show you very clearly that, hey, you spent $1,000 in month one or $10,000 in month one, you got $2,000 back or $20,000 back. If you want to double your budget in month two, guess what? Your return is also going to double. It's not like you're going to see some sort of dip. So as long as you guys, or as long as the customers are just cognizant about, hey, this works, this is scalable, it's really easy to take, say a budget of $500 or $5,000 and get that up to $50,000 in a couple months.
Fabulous. So, time check. It's 12:08.
Ooh.
So, boy. We took a little longer break before, but I'm not going to punish you because of that. I have 2 asks for you. So, I'm going to see if that works. All right. Ask number 1 is Anita and Matt are going to, other Matt, not this Matt, that Matt, are going to hand out surveys right now. It's literally like 3 mandatory questions and then 1 optional question. If you could take 30 seconds to do that right now, so if you want to just like in school, like hand out 2 and pass it down, do that super, super quickly. And then we can do one of 2 ways. You can keep the survey, put it in your pocket, go drink some wine and beer out where the breakfast was, or you can exchange it. I'll stand over in the corner, and I can give you a swag bag, and then you can go get your alcohol. But really, it's the ticket is the survey, and then you can get a swag bag with a bunch of cool stuff in it, and then you can grab a drink or 10. And we can continue this Q&A with people individually. I won't keep you captive right here.
Yep.
So with that, thank you so much, and we look forward to your feedback and your attendance at future events.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Victoria.
And just to reiterate Victoria's point, all four of us are going to be around, so definitely could continue the Q&A. I know some questions are a little bit more private. You don't want to disclose some things, so definitely grab any one of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Over there. Yeah. Thank you.